There's a World Cup bet that hits 88% of the time and almost nobody is using it because everyone is focused on outright winning bets and trying to predict champions. It's not a parlay and it's not a futures bet. It's the simplest, most boring bet on the entire World Cup board, and the historical data across the last 3 World Cups proves that it works. I'm going to show you exactly how to find it, the 4-step system, a real match example from the 2022 tournament, and exactly why World Cup matches produce this bet at a higher rate than any other soccer competition on earth. So let's get into it. The bet is going to be over 1.5 goals in a World Cup match. That means both teams combined just need to score at least 2 goals in 90 minutes of regulation play. Goals scored in extra time during knockout rounds do not count towards this bet. Penalty shootouts do not count either. Only goals in the 90 minutes of regulation play. If you've never bet soccer before, here's why this is the easiest bet on the entire tournament. Over the last 3 World Cups combined, this bet has hit 83% of the time across 192 matches. With proper filtering for specific match types, that rate climbs to 88% and higher. The data is rock solid across 3 different tournament cycles, in 3 different host countries, with 3 different generations of players. The line exists because sportsbooks have to offer it. Most casual World Cup bettors ignore total goal markets entirely. They want to predict the winner. They want to bet the outright champion. They want to build parlays on the round of 16. Meanwhile, the over 1.5 goals bet is sitting there at minus 400 to minus 700, hitting 88% of the time when you filter properly. This is the same energy as my regular soccer over 1.5 goal strategy video. But World Cup matches have unique characteristics that make this bet even more reliable than club soccer. Now I'm going to show you exactly why. World Cup matches produce a higher rate over 1.5 goals. So World Cup soccer completely beats out club soccer when it comes to this bet. And there's 3 specific reasons why. Understanding these reasons is what separates this strategy from generic over betting. Reason 1 is going to be tournament structure forces attacking play. In the group stage, every team plays 3 matches. Only the top 2 from each group advance to the knockout rounds. Goal difference is a tiebreaker. This creates an environment where teams cannot afford a draw that's 0-0. They have to score. A team sitting on a 0-0 draw in club soccer is acceptable. A team sitting on a 0-0 draw in the World Cup group stage might miss out on the knockout rounds because of goal difference. The tournament structure incentivizes attacking play at a level you don't see in club competition. Reason number 2 is talent gaps. These talent gaps create blowouts. The World Cup brings together teams from 48 different qualifying federations. The gap between the best teams like Brazil, France, Argentina, Germany, Spain, and the weakest teams that are qualifying nations making their World Cup debut is enormous. When Brazil plays a weaker qualifying nation in the group stage, the talent disparity often produces a 4-1 or 5-0 result. These blowouts are not rare. They happen multiple times per tournament. Every blowout hits the over 1.5 goals by a wide margin. Reason number 3 is the knockout stage eliminates defensive parking. In the knockout rounds, teams cannot draw. They must win or be eliminated. If 90 minutes ends in a tie, the match goes to 30 minutes of extra time. If still tied, then it goes to penalty shootouts. This structure makes parking the bus for a 0-0 draw a losing strategy. Teams that try to play defensively in knockout rounds eventually get caught when the opposing team breaks through, or they lose on penalties. The smart teams attack in knockout rounds because they have to score to control their fate. Combine these 3 factors and World Cup matches produce a uniquely high-scoring environment. Across the last 3 tournaments, the data is unmistakable. In 2014, Brazil saw 88% of matches go over 1.5. In 2018, Russia saw 83% go over 1.5. And in 2022, in Qatar, 80% of the time, they went over 1.5. Now this is just an overall number with all the matches with no filters across any of them. The 3 tournament average is 83%. With proper match filtering, your win rate climbs to 88% and even higher. That's the foundation. Now let me show you the system. Here's exactly how I find these bets at the World Cup. There's 4 filters. All 4 must pass before placing the bet. Let's get to step 1. Step 1 is offensive profiles. Each team needs to average at least 1.5 goals during qualifying or in the previous 12 months of international play. Qualifying matches tell you a lot about how a team scores in pressure situations. A team that averaged 2.5 goals per game during qualifying is fundamentally different from the one that scraped through with a 0.8 goals per game average. Now, how do you find this data? It's pretty simple. You can use the Linemaker AI to be able to pull up any of this information that I'm showing you right now. So you could use this for step 1 and it will literally give you the teams that have averaged over 1.5 goals during qualifying or for the last 12 months of international play. To use the Linemaker AI, all you gotta do is click the link in the description. Now, if either team is below 1.5 goals per match in that sample, then you just skip the match. The bet is dead. Let's go ahead and get to step 2. Step 2 is the match must be group stage or knockout through quarterfinals. Group stage matches are your highest probability spots because the tournament structure forces attacking play. The round of 16 matches also typically produce goals because the talent gap between the seeded teams and qualifying winners create blowouts. Quarterfinals are slightly more cautious, but still produce over 1.5 goals at 80% clip historically. Skip the semifinals and the finals. These matches are when defensive play creeps back in because the stakes are too high. The historical data on semis and finals, the historical rate on the semifinals and the finals dropped to roughly 65 to 70%, which kills the edge. So your tournament context filter is group stage through quarterfinals. You skip the semis and the finals. Now let's get to step 3, which is going to be the venue and condition. The match must be played in a stadium that's typically high scoring and in conditions that favor attacking play. For the 2026 World Cup specifically, this matters. The reason why is because matches are spread across 16 stadiums in the US, Mexico, and Canada. Mexico City's Estadio Azteca is at high altitude, which historically produces more goals because the thin air affects defensive conditioning over 90 minutes. US stadiums like SoFi in LA and AT&T Stadium in Dallas are large modern venues with fast playing surfaces. Canadian venues like BMO Field in Toronto are smaller and historically low scoring. For weather, summer matches in the US, like in Atlanta, Miami, Houston, Dallas, will be played in extreme heat. Heat fatigues defenders faster than attackers because attackers can pace themselves between sprints while defenders must constantly react. Hot conditions favor the over. Skip matches at smaller venues in cooler conditions, where defensive setups can sustain themselves. Bet matches at large venues in hot conditions or at high altitude. Now let's go ahead and get to step 4. Step 4 is going to be the odds and true probability check. Once steps 1 through 3 pass, check the odds. Target odds are going to be minus 500 or better. So minus 500, minus 400, minus 300, etc. At minus 500, implied probability is 83.3%. With proper filtering on all 3 previous steps, your true probability is going to land around 88 to 90%. Which is going to give you a 5 to 7% edge per bet. So shop that line across multiple sportsbooks because World Cup markets are less efficient than the NFL or the NBA markets because casual bettors flood the market with money on outright winners. The over 1.5 goal line varies meaningfully across books like DraftKings, FanDuel, Bet365, and Bovada. Often have different prices on the same match. Always take the best available number. If you can't find the line at minus 500 or better, with all 3 filters passing, wait for the next match. Now let me go ahead and walk you through an actual qualifying World Cup match using this system. I'm pulling this directly from the 2022 Qatar World Cup, so you can verify every detail yourself. The match is going to be Spain versus Costa Rica. Step 1, both offensive profiles. Spain averaged 2.4 goals per match across European qualifying and the Nations League play in 2022. They have elite attacking depth across multiple possessions, so that passes. Costa Rica now, they average 1.8 goals per match across the CACAF qualifying. Decent attacking output, but the squad lacked the elite finishers Spain had. Solid enough to pass the filter though. So both teams averaged above 1.5 goals per match. Let's move on to step 2. Group stage opening match for both teams. Spain needed to make a statement in Group E. Costa Rica needed any positive result to keep their tournament alive. The tournament structure created attacking incentive for both sides, so filter 2 ended up passing. Let's get to step 3. The match was played at Al Thumama Stadium in Doha. Brand new modern venue. Fast playing surface, climate controlled indoor environment that eliminated heat as a variable, but the surface and dimensions favored attacking play, so that ended up passing as well. Step 4, let's get to the odds calculation. The odds calculation here, over 1.5 goals was priced at minus 500. Where the true probability based on my filter analysis put this bet at a 94% true probability, giving us a little bit over a 10% edge there. So we went and placed the bet. What ends up happening? Well, Spain ends up winning 7-0. They combined for 7 goals, mostly obviously all from Spain. The over hit by 5.5 goals. One of the most dominant performances of the entire 2022 tournament, and a textbook example of why this filter and this system works. The match unfolded exactly the way the filter predicted. Spain dominated possession from the opening whistle. They scored in the 11th minute. They added a second in the 21st. By halftime, it was 3-0. The match was decided, but the goals kept coming because Spain wanted to send a message and Costa Rica had no defensive answers for the talent gap. That's exactly what the filter system is designed to find. A massive talent disparity in a group stage match where both teams had attacking incentive, played at a venue, and conditions favored scoring. The bet wasn't just a winner. It was an inevitability based on the math. This is the kind of match that's going to appear at the 2026 World Cup multiple times. Spain versus a weak qualifier, Brazil against a weak qualifier, Argentina versus a weak qualifier. The pattern repeats every tournament. You just need to identify the qualifying matches and place the bets. Now I want to show you guys the win rate over the last 3 World Cups when you use this filter and what it looks like, the percentage wise. So at the 2018 World Cup, games that met the filter went 35 out of 38. Good for 92%. Now let's get to the 2014 World Cup. 41 out of 44, producing a 93% win rate. Now let's get to the 2022 in Qatar. 37 out of 41, which produced a 90% win rate there. So the results speak for themselves. The strategy works, you just have to implement the filters. Now, question is, how do you implement these filters so that way you can get the answer the quickest? Well, I've made it the easiest way possible. By using Linemaker AI, you can literally put these steps and just throw them into the Linemaker AI, and you'll have the exact matchups in seconds that meet this 4-step criteria that I showed you here. That way you don't have to waste time by going step by step and going manually through all different websites to try to find all this information. It's all in one spot. You can access it in seconds. All you need to do is click the link in the description to start your trial, so that way you can see exactly how that works. Now, if you want to hit 88% and above of your World Cup bets, then I suggest you follow exactly what I taught you in this video, because if you follow step by step and you use the Linemaker AI, you will make more money on the World Cup this summer than all of your friends and everybody that you know combined. As always, I'm Frank with Linemaker Sports. I'll see you guys in the next video. Till then, I'm out.